most of our volume right now is stablecoins. So we trade more stablecoins than Bitcoin or ETH or other altcoins, and it has and it happens because Latin America has a lot of like very unique necessities, and stablecoins like are a great tool to solve many issues, or like generate efficiencies in markets. So, for example, here in Argentina, with so much devaluation, with so much restrictions to capital markets, the access to stablecoins gives safety to a lot of users. And they're able to dollarize and keep their savings this way. And it's also a market that runs 24/7 and it gives pricing all the time. Like it happened last year that during the election time there was a lot of uncertainty, and traditional markets don't only run from Monday to Friday. So a lot of news and a lot of media was covering the crypto dollars during election days, which are Sundays, and it predicted, like, it showed a lot what will happen to the dollar the next day when the market opened, and it became a big part of culture and and general knowledge about like what the price of crypto dollars are, like, and what are stable coins. And this is a very strong use case here in Argentina. In other countries like Mexico, big percent of the remittances are done with crypto, but it's not because of restrictions, it's more for efficiency. Crypto runs 24/7, it doesn't have holidays, and Swift, if you are doing a Swift wire transfer and it's a holiday in the US, and it happens to be that it's a holiday in Mexico, and also happens to come like a weekend after, like it can take like more than 4 days to settle. That's a long time.
And what about in terms of fees? Is it cheaper also?
It's cheaper, but the market, like today in Mexico, most of the use of crypto for remittances is actually by companies. So it's not the end user. Okay. It is like MoneyGram using crypto. And Ripple has a big part of that market too. So there are a lot of use cases. And coming back to your question about like maybe it's full circle and we come back to payments. Maybe it's the time. I'm not entirely sure. At the beginning, when we were doing payments and getting merchants, users will do one or two payments, like a few payments, to test it out, to know that it was feasible to do a payment. But then what ended up happening is like people don't buy Bitcoin or ETH to spend it. They buy it to save money long term, or as an investment, and they're speculating it to increase in value. So they did not buy it because how they buy it and how they perceive it, they're not willing to spend it. Over the years, the only thing that we saw users spending their crypto was technology, like the cell phone, computers, or very high value things for the user, or travel, and very sporadic. Over the last few years, with the growth of stablecoins and the amount of users that have stablecoins, maybe that starts to shift. It is a bet. We are making that bet. We also have a VC fund. Last year, we invested in 3 companies that are doing payments, and two of them are online. One is on the physical world, and we are now gonna be doing an experiment on the physical world with one of these companies, where we're gonna experiment on this again and see if it became time. I think eventually, for the amount of users that have crypto, and because of stablecoins that are a lot more spendable than Bitcoin or ETH, maybe we start seeing payments. But you also need to to think that if Argentinians even think as a savings, as an investment dollars, because maybe they don't have all the literacy on investing, and they don't realize that they don't compound, but they also perceive dollars as an investment, because it will appreciate against the local currency. So that could be an issue, but we'll figure it out. And I think just by the sheer amount of users with crypto, eventually it should start happening. But I also don't think it's needed. I don't like. I think there is a fixation on the use case, but crypto can be extremely successful and never been used by buying groceries.
What do you think will be the main use cases going forward, especially in Latin America?
Well, there are many use cases that are very important. Stablecoins is already a very important use case, and it keeps growing in every market. But the one that I'm super bullish is real world assets and security tokens. Mainly because capital markets are tiny across Latin America, except from Brazil, which has developed a stock exchange, and it has a really good infrastructure. The central bank is very very advanced, and and the regulatory framework is also good. But across the rest of Latam, access to capital markets is very very small, and the size of it is small.
Yeah.
So that hinders a lot economic development. And for example, in the US, a startup gets seed funding because an angel investor is speculating that the company is going to grow, it's going to be a successful use case, or it's going to be a good product or company, and someone else is after they build some value, there's going to be a Series A. And there's going to be a Series A because there's going to be a Series B, and everybody's speculating about the next phase, and eventually IPO, which is that will be the main goal. From 100 investment, maybe one makes it, and it pays back for all the rest of the investments. But in order to IPO in the US, it's very expensive, and it is one of the largest economies in the world, and you had to have $100 million, $200 million in revenue to justify an IPO in Nasdaq or New York Stock Exchange, because you're gonna be spending $5 million a year on legal fees and compliance and reporting. So it became so expensive that the bar for doing an IPO is getting bigger and bigger, and that's why even in the US it's taking longer to IPO. That's why, for example, the stock option contracts are 4 years, because before it took 4 years to do IPO, from idea to successful company, IPO took that short of time. Right now it's taking 7 to 10 or even more. Companies in Latin America doesn't have that. So very few companies can get to that level to get into public markets, and public markets give you the cheapest source of debt, and companies that made it there have another trajectory. But if you're a local company that maybe does $10 million in revenue, $20 million in revenue, maybe you're a good company, you produce a lot of information, you are growing, but maybe you never get there. So there is going public. This is just one example, but going public locally doesn't make sense, because there is no market, there is no liquidity, there is no volume, and it will be a lot of hurdle without a return, and the traditional market is too far away. And I think tokenization and real world assets is going to allow a lot of companies to become public with a token, and that can build that venture capital market that today doesn't exist. And today in Latin America, there is more people with crypto than access to stocks or with the stocks.